Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to HMP. I hope you got your volume turned up because this week we're talking the new series Echo on Disney+. I am your host, Adam Portress, and joining me today, you should see him bust a move at the skating rink. Sweet Sean Zakovacs from the internet.
Unless it's a backward skate, then I'm done.
No good there. And he only likes Kingpin in his Hawaiian attire, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and I wish my mother named me Biscuits.
I knew right then and there that was Bruce's favorite character in this whole
without
show.
a doubt. There was never a doubt.
This man is named Biscuits. B, drives a broken truck. C, has some weird problems with grandma. Like, it's got Bruce Leslie written all over it. It says hi.
It's the fact that they pluralized the name. That's where you really know they meant it. He's not Biscuit. He's Biscuits.
He Biscuits.
Native America's version, like their answer to Zach Galifianakis.
Spot on, my friend. Spot on.
Now, it's funny, like, because with the name Biscuits, you imagine he probably got that in some sort of biscuit-related affair. Because I had a buddy in 7th grade who, his name was Brian. His name's still Brian. It doesn't change. But his name's Brian. And one day we had these mini corn dogs at lunch. And before, just about anybody had really eaten anything off of their plate, Brian had sucked down these little mini corn dogs. And so I was like, holy cow, corn dog, you really ate those, didn't you? And to this very day, I call this man corn dog. I imagine this Biscuits character may be a somewhat similar story. Just eating a lot of biscuits or something and just gets that nickname and it sticks.
I grew up with a guy named Soup Bean for pretty much the same reason.
There you go. Before we get into that and all the other nuances of Echo, we got to say a big giant thank you to the people who support the show over at patreon.com/HMP. Those awesome people get pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. Let me tell you, Dinger Zone's good this week. Pre-show, pretty amazing. I don't know what a post-show is going to be like. Who knows? But honestly, the Patreon people are definitely getting their money's worth because we got a lot of good subjects and a lot of interesting things that harken back to the past. Let's just put it to you that way. Patreon.com/HMP. Support this show. Get more content at the exact same time, and we really appreciate that. And if you can't do that, for heaven's sake, at least go over to the iTunes, drop us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
I'd really appreciate that, guys. It makes all the difference in the world. And if you just want to shoot us an email, man, do that at heromoviepodcast@gmail.com. We'd like to hear from some people as well. Going into Echo, before we kind of get started here and everything, it's interesting that they decided to throw this show all out in one big kit and caboodle there, huh?
Yeah, but I mean, we all know why they did that. I mean,
yeah, it didn't seem like they may have had the highest hopes for this show, but we'll see if all that kind of pans out here. But let me go ahead and get into the IMDb plot line for Echo, because as we all know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. Maya Lopez must face her past, reconnect with her Native American roots, and embrace the meaning of family and community if she ever hopes to move forward. Doesn't that make you sound like a super fun comic booky adventure right there?
It's very Hallmark Channel.
Yeah,
Lifetime. No, Lifetime Movie Network.
Yeah,
Lifetime Movie
you
Network.
put a little, you put some Christmas in this, and you never know. I don't know. These episodes,
This is Hawkeye.
Lifetime also. Lifetime is always like lady who's got a killed guy who's coming after her.
Mhm.
Like,
Abused by husband, she has to stand up. Abused by father, she has to stand up. That kind of thing.
it usually ends with her holding with two hands a gun in front of her that's smoking. Roll credits.
And it was made in 1995, starring Nancy McKeon.
Yes.
Beautiful. We got episodes directed by Sidney Freeland, who directed episodes of Grey's Anatomy, Fear of the Walking Dead, Reservation Dogs, and Star Trek Strange New Worlds. And Katarina McKenzie, who directed some episodes of Riverdale, Supernatural, and The Walking Dead. So pretty good little run for those two right there.
I'll sing to the hills that everybody needs to see Strange New Worlds. That is the most fun Star Trek has been in forever.
Now, is that where is that again? Is that on the some CBS?
That's on the Paramount Plus.
Oh, okie dokie.
Have either of you checked out Reservation Dogs? I've heard really high praise, but I've never watched it.
I didn't, and the reason why I didn't was because of Scalped, the Jason Aaron book from and I don't want to be tainted. Like, I'm sure the show is great. I'm certain the show is great because everyone who sees it is like, this show is great. Everybody needs to watch it. But because I loved Scalped so much and it has such a great ending and and I just love the characters on that, I don't want to mess with Scalped. So I've never seen Reservation Dogs.
That's an interesting take. I wouldn't have thought about that.
Well, let me get everybody settled in here and everyone on this Daredevil sequel / prequel, because technically I guess it's probably both of those things in a way, because this sucker's got everything. Don't know who Echo is, but you didn't watch Daredevil? Don't worry. We got probably the best last time previously on episodes without exactly saying those words, but all of your favorites are back. We've got Echo for a character that doesn't speak, says quite a lot. We got young Echo, cheek pinching for days on that little girl, love it. Vincent D'Onofrio is back in probably his second role he's probably best known for at this point with Kingpin. That's interesting. Your boy Biscuits, who's not only an amazing character name, but also the actor's name is Cody Lightning. I don't know which one's cooler. We got
he should be a wrestler.
I don't know. Speaking of cool names and owning a skating rink, Henry Black Crow is an awesome name. But me, I'm all about Graham Greene. That's right. That dude shows up in something, you know, at least he's going to be good in it.
He's always good.
We got special guest appearances from Hawkeye and Daredevil. We got too few many fights, great sound design, father-daughter story that's better than it has any right to be. Killing a signer. I'm pretty sure that's on most people's bucket list, if we're honest. We got gunshots to the face, fast recovery, contact lens technology, CGI arms, real fake leg, train rides, an ancestor story that's certainly like nothing we've seen before. Flashbacks, a busty statue, magic Native American powers, like actual magic, but no less out there than the Native American lacrosse scenes. I love that. I thought that was cool. Clowning on white people, silent film treatment, Lion King references, Dead Mom flashback, and Kingpin for mayor. This show's got everything.
Oh yeah, that was a good one there, Adam. That was a good one.
I gotta. Well, I'll start off and like. I was a little trepidatious for this show. Like, I liked Echo as a character in the Joe Quesada wrote the book, right? No, it's like way back from the OG like Daredevil run with Quesada and is it David Mack, if memory serves?
Yeah. David Mack.
So, and that was the time I was reading Daredevil, and then when that came out, I was not crazy about David Mack's style because it's very, very different.
Scratchy.
Yeah, it's all over the well. It's not as sketchy as like, oh gosh, Maleev, like Alex Maleev. It's not like quite like that, but his is more like collage-y, and like he like makes a giant painting, if you will, and then that gets shrunk down to the comic book page. It's really strange because when I saw what his workflow looks like, it's like, this doesn't, who
He's
does
murals
this?
over there?
Yeah, it's really weird, and it's like just putting typeface on stuff where it doesn't belong. It's just like really, at first I hated it, but then when you really start thinking about what the story is doing and how he's trying to tell the story, it makes it really interesting. So I've kind of been in on the Echo character, you know, kind of since that and everything. So I was excited when this character was announced for Daredevil.
It was announced for Hawkeye.
Well, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's a Daredevil character. You know what I mean?
But exactly, it totally is. But here's the thing: is like in my mind, I got a little confused, and I don't know if you guys ever read the Kevin Smith run on Daredevil.
Yeah, it was the one that was just before that,
and he introduced a character called Onomatopoeia, who could only like speak in onomatopoeia. If you're familiar with that linguistic term. So for a minute, when they said Echo, I thought it was going to be onomatopoeia instead of Echo.
There's this great episode. There was this stupid interstitial called, I don't know what it was, but they were like yearbook photos, and all the kids in the yearbook talked. And then they talked to the teacher, and there was this giant conversation like it was the class. And this kid, Mahout, was always talking about, I forgot. I had a really good thing, but I lost it. I'm sorry. Let's go.
Onomatopoeia.
Oh, yeah. So they were asking about onomatopoeias, and she's like, it sounds like the word sounds like the thing, like boom sounds like boom. And then one of the kids just goes, how about explosion? See, that's an onomatopoeia, right? She's like, no, I don't think that counts. That was a long way to go for a crap joke. I'm sorry.
Anyway,
that's all right. We're used to it.
When they announced Echo, in my mind, I was like, this is going to be the weirdest character they've introduced yet, because I was thinking it was onomatopoeia, Echo, similar concept.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's one thing that I found interesting about this show and stuff, is because her power is the kind of, as the name would imply, echo and mimic the style and stuff of other people, just kind of, taking on their things. But we don't really do that here, because I think I saw a video that's
too close to Taskmaster.
Yeah, that said it was a little too close to what we've seen with Taskmaster and everything. So I guess that's fine. I don't know how I feel about her powers per se.
Well, the biggest complaint I've seen online is nobody can exactly tell you what her powers are. They're very vague.
Yeah, it's very just like with the power of the ancestors, I can fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Like somebody joked, her main power is she can alter the temperature in any room plus or minus 3 degrees Fahrenheit.
Ooh, watch out now. Somebody's feeling a little bit sweaty and he doesn't know what to do with himself.
Touch the thermostat.
I have the same problem with this show that I have with I have two big problems with the show. One is that it has the Power Rangers movie problem. You know, that terrible Power Rangers movie from a few years ago where they said they were going to make
the
like
one I
10
pretended like I liked for a little bit.
I like that movie. I don't give a sweet hoot.
That movie is fine until you start introducing the Power Rangers part to it, and then it starts getting really
Well, the
poor.
Rita Repulsa stuff's really the part where you're just like, why they put this hot woman in all this crap makeup and garb that, like, I don't want to look at her like that. Don't think you're ruining it.
I always had a thing for the original Rita Repulsa.
That lady's great.
And so, you know, with this show, I like the show as the show, but once they start introducing her power set to this is where it lost me. It's like, you know, this is a fun story if she's just a badass. You know, you don't need to give her. I mean, Hawkeye doesn't have special powers. Who cares? You know, he's just real good without arrow.
I'm with you. Like, I really like the idea that this is just a young woman who overcame the barriers, overcame the obstacles, and now she's tough as nails. And I didn't need the Echo power at all from the comics because, like we said before, it's too close to Taskmaster. And when they went ahead and made Taskmaster a female in the movie, the Black Widow movie, that really takes it away from doing it with Echo. But she didn't need any powers. It's not like she's, you know, Daredevil's blind. He's got to have an explanation. But a deaf person, you could say that's why she's so good at watching every move and countering it and everything, you know, and I just liked it where it was. And then the idea that they totally introduced a person with a prosthetic leg just because the actor was so great. Like, this isn't from the comics. It's like they found this person, they're like, we got to use her. So we're going to just retcon the character. I loved it all. But to introduce the like pride in her ancestors and drawing strength from the memories of her ancestors, I could buy into that. But giving her the vague glowing hands that do things I don't quite understand, I'm you know, one of those people. I need to be able to open up the Marvel encyclopedia and see powers and have them explained in a way that makes sense. I don't know how I would type up the power section on this character.
She thinks about grandma real hard and then flame hands.
It's ill-defined, right? And that's sort of the problem that Marvel MCU has been running into the last few years, is that explain to me what all of this is, right? Like you can't really do that with, and the problem is that they just have introduced too much at this point. And to the point where like, well, but they're powerful. Like, well, that's not enough, sir. You know, and that's my second point to this, is that this show is a fun show when it's just about a lady who's, you know, who's overcome a ton of obstacles.
Now,
let me finish.
I apologize.
So you know, when it's the MCU problem, which is that, look, I am all for I'm all for diversity. I totally am. But when that's the only thing you have going for your story, you're not doing your job correctly. And this has been the problem with the MCU for a while now, is that like I want to like all of this stuff. But the fact of the matter is, the best Marvel TV show that we've gotten since Disney Plus is Loki. And the reason why is because it's surprising, that especially that second season. That second season is such a banger because it's just surprising. And it's not surprising you with fakeness. Like, you know, I look, I love Kingpin, but Kingpin is supposed to be this big shocking reveal. It's just a character. Like, that's not enough for your story. Like, you need to have something surprising within the storyline of what you're telling. Like, I'm trying to keep this as well thought out as I can, and I'm doing a poor job here, it seems like. But like, my problem with the Ghostbusters movie that was the all-female cast wasn't because it was an all-female cast.
Mm-mm.
It's because it's not a funny movie. And you have 4 of the funniest people on the planet, and you can't make a funny movie with
It's
those
like
4 people.
you didn't know the ingredients for what made Ghostbusters work and what kind of had that that little je ne sais quoi that they just didn't have for whatever reason.
Right. Well, I mean, there's multiple reasons.
But I don't want to
But we won't get into that right now. And so, with all of this new Marvel stuff, it seems like what they're basically doing is they're othering people by not meaning to. Like, look how crazy these Native Americans live. Isn't this crazy? Isn't this strange? Like that seems to keep happening with MCU, where it's like, look, they're just Native Americans. That's great. But you need to have something more than just everybody's Native American in this show.
Now,
I love that. I want to see other cultures. I want to see all that stuff, but it's not enough to just see it.
I will say this, one thing that I was actually happy about with this show is that because, well, first of all, the kind of their Dawn of Man, if you will, kind of thing. Interesting. Very cool.
Very awesome.
I am also very happy that we didn't get, or at least, and God knows they'll probably try to flesh this out at some point, but we didn't really get an explanation. Thank God we didn't hear anything about them being like aliens or something. Can't they just be people?
I'm kind of going the other direction. I mean, they explain the Norse gods with Thor as being these beings from another planet or another realm, whatever you want to call it, that inspired the legends. I think that one of the problems they have with some of the shows, like when I look at the Disney Plus shows, my favorites were, as we already mentioned, the Loki show and WandaVision, and those are the ones that were the most fantastic.
And they're going out and trying different things. You're right.
But when they try to be grounded, they can't commit. They can't decide, are we going to be street level like Netflix, or are we going to be more like the MCU with aliens and superpowers? And that's where you get these vague things where it's harder for me to buy into it, because they can't commit to just a girl who's good at fighting, or let's just say these were Eternals that were the ancestors of the Choctaw. You go one way or the other. You either make her Thor from a different lineage, or you make her Hawkeye from a different lineage, but they can't make up their mind where they want to go, and they're kind of stuck in the middle where it's like they don't want to commit.
Yeah, I do agree with you that they should have just kind of gone one way harder than the other.
It's like the Mitch Hedberg joke. I don't have a girlfriend. I just have a girl who get real angry if she heard me say that.
Yeah, it's overall though, it was better than I expected it to be, especially when they tell you, hey, we're dropping all the episodes at the exact same time. That does not feel like they have a whole lot of hope in it and stuff. But for me, at least, more or less, it was more a positive than negative experience overall.
Yeah, I agree.
My favorite part, I don't know if this is a positive or negative, but I will say my favorite part was probably the recap in episode 1. I was loving it because there was so much action, and I don't remember how you two guys felt about it, but I really liked the Hawkeye show. I think I probably liked it more than you guys did.
Hawkeye was fun.
Hawkeye suffered from the problem of it was they released the last episodes after Christmas, and it was the whole thing took place at Christmas, and so it fell off a cliff after that for me, because we were watching it in real time. Remember?
Yeah, but I did not remember that timeline being after Christmas. I just remembered thinking it's going to be something I watch again next Christmas, and the next Christmas came and I didn't watch it. But I am a sucker for Haley Steinfeld. I'm a sucker for her. I liked her in Pitch Perfect, which I'm a bigger fan of the Pitch Perfect movies than I should be. And I love that Bumblebee movie. And I really, really like the Coen Brothers True Grit.
That's what I was going to say. That's the girl from True Grit.
That girl she hardly miss. So
I'm in her camp.
So let's kind of go. Like I said, I liked a lot of the action. It was too much, not enough for me. I wish there was a little bit more, because the stuff that was there was wicked cool. When Daredevil shows up, boy, oh boy, was it just like, it hyped me up and made me so excited for whatever is coming with Daredevil next.
And I know somebody might say, well, it would have undercut the value of Echo to do it, but boy, wouldn't you guys have liked it if she had to go back to New York and team up with Daredevil to take down Kingpin in the final episode?
Well, number one, you can't do that, because that's like Kingpin is going, we're setting him up to, like, I hear a lot of people saying, and I believe that this is probably a true statement, is that we're kind of setting him up to be the street level Thanos, if you will, our street level big bad.
That's the right move.
Yeah.
If they're not doing that, they should be.
It's 100% the right move.
They definitely can do a better job than Netflix did by setting up the Hand as the street level big bad. Because that Defenders, man, there's nothing I looked more forward to and was more disappointed by than Defenders.
What a stink fest that thing was. You know, also Marvel TV and Netflix Marvel is running into the same problem when it comes to their street level stuff, which is that one, you're never going to beat Daredevil at street level because the Daredevil show, I mean, my God, just so immensely great when you're coming to street level action. And also you're running into the other problem, which is that you're not Batman.
And I loved Punisher in some ways. It was just a little too gruesome for me. And I think being on Disney Plus would tame it a little bit, tone it down enough that I would really be into John Barenthal as Punisher. And I really, really loved Luke Cage when it started, but it turned out what I really loved was Mahershala Ali because I'm a red-blooded human, and we all love him. And once he was gone from the show didn't appeal to me as much.
What a
they didn't know what they had, man.
No, I don't think they did. I think after that they were like, oh, we have made a grievous mistake. We should have flip-flopped these bad boys and had Cottonmouth be the consistent, villain, because it was one of those things. Like, he'd been in plenty of stuff before, but man, what a breakout for him.
He could have been the big bad for the Defenders.
Oh yeah,
no problem.
It would have been amazing if he would have been the bad guy for all of that. And that would, you're right, it would have turned the tide on that one super big.
And he's the bad guy that the people on the street get behind. That's what makes him work. That's what they're going to try to do with Kingpin, but that's what works with Mahershala Ali. Is he's the Jim Jones. He's the guy that gets him to drink the Kool-Aid, if you will.
So let's talk about D'Onofrio as Kingpin, because I mean,
I still love it.
It's
I
so
love
good.
The guy as Kingpin. Man, I love D'Onofrio in probably everything I've ever seen him in, but I love him in Kingpin more than anything else.
He's good,
man. That's a hard call, man. He's so good in Men in Black that you don't even know it's him.
You didn't, like, no one, like, when you find out that that's him at the end, or like later on, you're like, wait a minute, the guy from Full Metal Jacket. No, that doesn't even look good. Yeah. He's gone through so many great body transformations over the years and
Thor
stuff.
From Adventures in Babysitting?
From Adventures in Babysitting, and then like the crazy demon sort of dude in The Cell a couple years previous to that and stuff. So the guy's had a wild and wacky career and everything. I love it, though.
His line delivery is Kingpin, though, whether it's this is a different Kingpin than the Netflix Kingpin, but both versions, man, the guy can act. Like, this guy loves acting. This guy studies acting as an art and not a job. And the fact that he transforms himself into Kingpin in a way that, boy, I just wish more people could give me that kind of like performance.
Because you feel the powerfulness of him, because, and that's another great thing that he's the guy that we cast and everything, because physically he has it. It's there, you know. You have to have that big giant physical dangerousness to him and everything. But what Vincent D'Onofrio brings to that, which I don't think we see super awful much in comics. Correct me if I'm wrong. But we don't really see tons and tons of sensitive side of Fisk and like what kind of is going on in his head and was made him, quite like what he is and everything. And I love that we've kind of, explored that over the Daredevil seasons and stuff. And while I think ultimately I saw a quote, I'll pull it up here on my phone, but where Vincent D'Onofrio himself was talking about how they initially, let me read this here. He says, during our restart of the creative on Daredevil Born Again, all of the creatives got together and said, look, this is how we've got to be doing it now. So we're surely speaking about in terms of, essentially it's going back to the original Daredevil. My picture is really crappy for me to read that, but essentially he's saying they went back, especially with Daredevil at the end of all of this, and said, we need to figure this out and roll in the right direction. And that's why they're kind of reshooting the Born Again stuff after COVID shut it down. Feige looked at it and was like, this ain't what we want to do. And so I think that's a smart move.
A big part of Kingpin's story has always been Vanessa.
Mm-hmm.
Do they reintroduce Vanessa? Do we do a new Vanessa? Do we try to carry on the Vanessa legacy from Netflix? What do you think they do there?
I don't even know that we know specifically or not if Vanessa is dead yet. I don't know. Am I wrong about that? I don't think that we know
I
that
don't
for
remember,
sure she's
but man,
dead.
I'm not going to go back and rewatch.
I wouldn't mind rewatching. I'm going to be honest with you. Those
just
Daredevils
don't-
were just so darn good.
Where do you rewatch it at? Hulu?
You know what's funny? And
I think it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I think it's on Disney Plus now. But the funny thing is, and I wish I would have done it now because I'm sure that you can't find it now. But I know that you can buy at least the first 2 seasons on Blu-ray. Believe it or not.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I
But
almost
Vanessa's
bought them, but I
story
didn't.
would wrap
And I'm
up in
kind of mad
season
that
3,
I didn't.
though.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's one of those like, hey, we gave you the first 2 seasons, and then we're never going to put out the third one.
And I know from the comics, you start to think of Vanessa as like this innocent who has no idea who she married, and then next thing you know, she becomes Kingpin when he's away for a while. And I really want to see that turn. And I don't know if the actor that was cast as Vanessa for Netflix could do that.
I really like her. I thought she was a really great presence in that show and a good kind of I don't know if foil is the right word for him, but you know, the person opposite him and everything. I thought she was really great. Now I wouldn't mind seeing more of her, to be honest.
And you know, Frank Miller is one of those writers that like I hate the person, love the stories for the most part. And
up to a point.
Yeah, up to a point. But I'm just saying some of the greatest comic book stories ever written were written by Frank Miller, like it or not, hate it. And he's an artist who is a great writer, which is also rare.
Mm-hmm.
But that Born Again,
basically.
I'm so excited to see Born Again get treated properly because they kind of did it poorly in Netflix, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking forward to seeing it because that was like the first Daredevil comics I ever bought were Born Again. And
was it really?
Over my head. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, there's tons of different tiny little things in there. For example, when Kingpin presents the hammer to Echo and everything, like, this is the hammer that I killed my father with and stuff. No, it's not. No, it is not. That's it was a claw hammer in the first one. This is a ball peen. No, sir. Those are different hammers.
That's also totally a Kingpin thing. Is just stop at a hardware store on the way to her house, buy a hammer, and tell her that story.
No, I wouldn't imagine not. But it is funny because I'm just like, I remember that show, and that was not that. And because when you think about it, because that was the hammer that he was nailing up all of the little signs and stuff within the neighborhood and whatnot. So when you're doing that stuff, you're going to want the claw on the back to get nails out of stuff if you do it wrong or whatever. You don't want a ball peen. It doesn't make sense.
But the ball peen is an awesome, gruesome murder weapon for film.
Oh, it looks great.
It's a perfect little indention in the head.
Yeah, but you turn that claw backwards, though, that does some damage.
Just look as we say at work. As we say at work, if you're gonna hit me in the head with a hammer, be a buddy. Use the claw side
and just get it done with. I love all of the like little attention and stuff to this show. From the skating rink is fantastic. I love I want to go to that skating rink so bad.
It does look like straight out of the 80s.
Like
roller rink.
Like, I mean, obviously sans all the, the Native American fare and whatnot, that looks, somewhat like the roller skating rink that I went to growing up and everything.
Do any of us know where they shot this?
I think it was all Georgia. If
it is 99% of it is in Atlanta.
Because when that show finishes, they go, boom,
that's a fake question because of course I knew.
They did at the end of the series have a thank you to the Choctaw folks, and the Choctaw folks are in Oklahoma, so I imagine they had to have been there for something.
Well, let's talk about that because that's an interesting thing because the character change so Echo in the comics and everything was Cheyenne, if memory serves, and so we're going over to Choctaw here. So it's interesting that we changed that, but it's very cool that you just take stuff from that culture and everything and mold it into, what we see here and everything. And for me, it worked.
Yeah. I think that when it comes to, look, no one knows more about, when it comes to, Native American culture than a suburban white guy from a suburb in Connecticut.
Yes.
I mean, who's going to know more? But, it sure felt authentic to me what we were watching, because whenever there's something that seems strange meaning, strange as in like, wow, that's out of left field, like something like that feels authentic to me. And there was I had a few of those moments watching the show. It felt good. Like, oh, hey, they actually are doing the work instead of the way that they wrote what's happening with 5 old Jewish guys.
And I don't know really anything much about the Cheyenne Nation, but I do know that like there still are a fair amount of Choctaw folks around that are acting and working, because like the what's the actor from that Legion show that was also in Prey?
Oh yeah,
Amber Midthunder or something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Amber Midthunder.
Yeah, I think that she's Choctaw. I think that the language they used in Prey is Choctaw, because we still have a handle on that. So I think some of it is just, you know, we were pretty good at killing off entire tribes of folks back in
The
the dark
availability
days.
is a little better on the Choctaw side, I guess. Is
Yes,
what we're
that
saying.
might have something to do with it. And then also our total misunderstanding of what tribes were too might play into it. Like there may have not actually been a Cheyenne tribe, so they're trying to correct that.
Speaking of interesting things,
you guys know I have been champing at the bit trying to get you guys to watch Fargo season 5, and the actor who plays Echo's dad on the show, I first saw him, and I think it's season 2 of Fargo, might be season 3, and he is such a badass on that show that now anytime I see him in something, I'm like, oh boy, that guy's gonna be up to no good somewhere, because he has that look about him. You can't help it. He has a menacing quality to him. As someone who has a menacing quality, I know it when I see it, and that guy has it. And it's like, and I was really surprised with his performance in this show, because I didn't expect him to be so sweet-natured, because he does not play sweet-natured characters. He usually plays tough as nails, stay out of this guy's way. And so to see him in this and to see the performance he pulled off, good on you, buddy. I'm going to be watching more of your work later.
I will admit, in my house, we missed the days when we used to cast Filipinos as Native Americans, but I guess we're not going back to that anytime soon.
No, not as
true.
much. A little tougher to do that these days. But, you know, as soon as you think that nobody's going to do that, boy, you turn around and sure shooting
you wait.
going on, and you're like, oh. Now, if you're doing it for comedic effect, your Tropic Thunders or something, that might be a different story. But if you're just like, let's just darken them up a little bit and throw them on screen, I don't know that we can really do too much of that anymore.
Let me ask you something,
Phillips.
Let me ask you something. So, look, you've seen the movie Soul Man, right? We're going to do that with you, except with a Native American.
Perfect. It just hits Mel Brooks, which we were okay with in the 70s. It was fine.
Totally okay.
Let's talk a little bit about a couple things. I love the sound design in this show. Obviously, with a character that cannot hear, you need to kind of represent that in particular ways.
They did that perfectly, didn't they?
So cool. Really, really love that. And when you can do sound design that lacks sound, that's one of the toughest things to do. Is like, how do I convey with sound silence? It sounds like it'd be easy. Just turn off all the sound. No, that's not how it works, unfortunately. You got to do a lot more work.
That sort of tubular tunnel, that does such a great job of letting you know you've switched things.
Yeah.
Just being able, and then kind of like the only thing that you're hearing is your own heartbeat and everything, or the heartbeat of the person that you're choking out to kill, which I thought was really awesome.
That was awesome.
It's just like I feel it, and then just nothing. Beautiful.
The only thing they really got wrong on the show is that my daughter, her best friend growing up was the child of 2 deaf parents.
Mm-hmm.
And those parents are the loudest people in the world. They are so ungodly loud, because how would they know?
They don't know.
You know,
I can't regulate this.
And so their daughter is when she first started coming to our house, she was like, it's just so nice to be in a house where people aren't like just screaming or just like yelling and like smashing into things because they don't know how much noise they're making or don't care.
What's even worse.
And I remember asking her a battery of questions like, almost like Macaulay Culkin and Uncle Buck, where I was like, okay, now I'm going to ask you 35 questions.
What about this? What about this? What's this situation like? I don't know. Cause like, I don't know. I do like, maybe it's uncomfortable for some people, but like, man, sometimes when you get that person that's got like a unique perspective or something that you're not used to, you got to nail it down and be like, hey man, tell me about this stuff. Cause I don't know from nothing and I'd like to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to, if we can get back to one of the things I was talking about earlier with MCU, which is that, just because you have diversity, that isn't enough. You need to have more than that. Like good first step. Now let's make some good stuff with diversity.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's the part where the thing that I want most when I'm watching a show is I want to be surprised. I want surprise me with a plot line that I didn't see coming. And it's just so everything they're doing is just so by the book.
Yeah, there's if someone came to you and said, "Okay, we have a series of Echo. You know who Echo is based upon the things that you've seen previously. Here, it's going to have Kingpin in it. Give us a basic idea of this." You would come up with pretty close to this, just from a basic broad stroke standpoint. And you go, okay, that's a great baseline. What stuff are we going to put in there? But we decided that like glowing magical hands is about as much extra as we're going to throw in.
But it's not just the problem with Echo. It's a problem with most of their stuff. Even geez, I want to say since Avengers Endgame, let's say there's been 10 Marvel movies, 8 of them have been just okay.
Yeah.
Like none of them, like, is there anybody who's going to walk away from Black Widow like, well, that's got to be a top 5 Marvel movie?
That movie changed my life.
No, it's
exactly.
It's in no one's top 10. I don't believe. I doubt it.
Because it's not. There's nothing surprising about that movie, and it's kind of the problem I'm having with Marvel across the board. Is that there's nothing. There's not even anything clever. Like nothing clever happens, and think of how surprising and how clever Marvel is when it's really great. Like just how clever Spider-Man No Way Home is. That's probably the last super clever Marvel movie we've got. Now, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That's the last one where you're just like, wow, that is a good movie.
But yeah, we kind of keep swinging though. It's like that pendulum just kind of keeps going back and forth, and one day it's going to stay over to one side. Sadly, I think.
Well, if there's still room for it in the public lexicon, DC's about to eat their lunch, because I'm willing to see anything James Gunn does at this point, and I'm excited for what he's doing, and so. Marvel, if you're going to keep treading this same water, you're about to get overtaken. You don't want to be Burger King, you want to be McDonald's.
Yeah,
it's kind of I think it's kind of a thing where they're pragmatic, because what they did, and they were pretty darn formulaic early on, and the risks they took were not very risky. And they just had such overwhelming success. It's like the Roman Empire. Who's going to come in and change all our tactics and strategy when we conquered the world with it? And then your borders are shriveling up. Next thing you know, you're out in Turkey trying to pretend like you're still in Rome.
And Kevin Feige wept for there were no more Marvel movies to conquer.
Hans Gruber, Die Hard.
Yeah, it's curious as to where we're going. I feel like this show at least feels like it's trying to set up something that we're, because like I said, the street level thing is what I think that if they latched onto that, we could just do so much damage with that. I really think
that's fine, and that's great. That's great, but you can't have everyone be a badass. Like you can't have 14 different badasses on your street level Marvel. Like you've got to have your detective guy. You've got to have your do-gooder. You've got to have
an Alfred. You need a Commissioner Gordon. Exactly.
Yes. You don't have you have right now with Marvel TV. You have 5 badasses. Like you're gonna need to change that up, everybody.
Bruce, I understand what you're saying, and I hear you loud and clear. I've got the solution. Well, no, you had the solution clearly. Iron Fist is Alfred for the MCU.
I like it.
You know, he doesn't really have like any powers that you really particularly want, so you keep him back at base. You know, keeping an eye on things.
This is something that Daredevil did though, because there was Ben Urich, there was Karen Page, there was Foggy. He had people who contributed to his battle, but they couldn't fight. You know what I mean? So the Daredevil's probably one of the best standalone Netflix shows. I really, really like that first season of Jessica Jones, but then it started to get a little haywire.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I
even that first season where she's got like they like, you know, hey, you don't need to make 10 episodes of this. Like you clearly have 6.
Yeah.
You have 6 episodes of ideas.
Well, they've definitely cleared that up because they're doing like 5-episode seasons now.
I will say this. I would much rather have this and have the quality of this if you just kept it. I mean, obviously I wanted to be a little bit, you always want things to be better, but if they kept it at this quality and you kept 5 to 6 episodes, I don't feel so bad about it. Like, cause you didn't commit 13, 16, something like 16 episodes of this. You want to blow your brains out. It'd be too much.
At what point do we see Iron Fist?
Gosh, that is a really good question.
You don't think we'll ever see that again?
Here's what I'll say. I don't
TV?
think we see it in the next 5 years.
I feel like we probably
one of those bridges that was burned too thoroughly.
Like a Colleen Wing like replacement. I figured that may be a thing.
I think the whole idea of bringing in a white savior martial artist is not going to appeal to Disney anytime soon.
No. Agreed.
Yeah,
and they left him in outer space, turning into the next Star-Lord when we last saw him.
Would have been really dope. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to, but I don't know how all of these things end up playing together. Now, somebody has actually put out the idea, and let me throw this one by you and see what you think. At the end of the last Spider-Man movie, we see him he is back down to street level Spider-Man. He doesn't have all of his fancy Tony Stark thing. He is rolling around in a cloth uniform here. So he has decided to be, neighborhood Spider-Man again. And with the, kind of teaser at the end of this thing, did you guys see that by perchance?
Mm-hmm. I didn't see the teaser. I just saw the mayor of New York thing.
Exactly. Well, that's what I'm talking about. So essentially,
I didn't know if there was something later on.
No. So essentially, yeah, him just like setting up Kingpin as mayor of New York City, and I think putting Spider-Man in this with a couple of these characters, especially like Daredevil, please. I don't know if it's ever going to happen.
The astute comic book historian knows that Kingpin was first a Spider-Man villain.
Exactly, and that's why I always kind of like. I'd love to see Spider-Man in there, and especially again, great stuff here with D'Onofrio just being a giant man and Tom Holland being a tiny little man. That when he just puts that bear hug on little Tom Holland, you feel like that dude could get crushed.
And Tom Holland has got a pretty big career. He's got a lot of money in the bank. He's taking a little time off from acting. This might be the Miles Morales venue.
That would be wonderful.
I listen. I'm not against throwing Miles in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if this is the way to do it per se, because I feel like Miles has to have his own thing. And
I think.
Well, the nice thing is he's entrusted with Sony, who can do no wrong with their movies.
Yeah, they've been knocking out of the park all the times.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen, it's.
I don't know about you guys, but I can't wait for Madam Web.
That Madam Web is looking real good. Somebody threw up pictures of they had all the girls in their little uniforms and stuff like this, and it was just like, what are we doing, guys? What is this? Is this what we? I mean, and here's the thing, not for nothing, but they look somewhat comic accurate to a degree, which part of you goes, that's good, but then another part goes, that looks like crap, dude.
I gotta say, I've been reading comics for a very long time. I barely know who Madam Web is.
I would say that if Madam Web is half as good as Morbius, there might not be a sequel.
The only thing I really know Madam Web is from the cartoon.
How could it be? Okay.
The cartoon where she was old and blind and in a wheelchair. I'm like, I don't want to see Dakota Fanning like that.
That's the Madam Web I know.
Yeah.
The Madam Web I know I thought was Aunt May from another timeline or whatever.
She looks like it, at least. That's for sure. But yeah,
You got to eat your wheat cakes, Peter.
So, listen, if this ties into that, and then all of those ladies come in and start kicking Kingpin's butt, I think we all know where they took the idea from. Us. You owe us a paycheck, Marvel, Sony, conglomerates. One other quick thing that I don't think many people probably noticed. Did you guys notice the aspect ratios changing in this thing?
I don't ever notice that.
It's very cool. Like they did a lot of the Choctaw lacrosse game is the best thing I call it. That was all. They go to like this, 185 IMAX kind of looking sort of thing. It's a little wider angle lens for all of those shots, or for all that scene and everything, which makes it look, really interesting and stuff. And of course, when we do the flashbacks to the way older times and everything with the silent movie treatment, I really thought that was a lot of fun. There were interesting choices that you made in this show that doesn't have a lot of interesting choices. Every now and then they pluck out a little something and you're like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's neat and interesting. It never quite goes to the level you want it to, but the seeds are there.
I did notice when the aspect ratio changed in Ben-Hur.
That thing's as wide as it gets, boy. That's your super. Do you know that was they used the exact same lenses for what do you call it there? What's it? The Tarantino movie that's in the cold. Gosh.
Oh wow, really?
Horrible 8 or whatever.
Yeah, Hateful Eight. I don't know why my brain just took a nap there, but yeah, same lens for Ben-Hur and Hateful Eight. So that's the pull Tarantino's got. You can get those.
I heard there was a guitar they'll never use again that was in Hateful Eight.
Yeah. Oh my God. Oh, thanks, buddy. You just ruined that guitar. Man, oh man, what a waste. Anyways, before we get to our final grade here and everything, we have to find out how this television program relates back 1-to-1 with Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Ooh.
Yeah, ite, Mr. Stallone. Sarah Finn was the casting director on Echo Season 1, and chances are, if there's a movie you like that was made in the last 25 years, Sarah Finn probably played a large part in casting that film. Sarah Finn has been in the trenches since 1997, when she got her start on Speed 2 Cruise Control, a movie so bad they decided to never make another Speed movie ever. She also worked on the 2003 movie Timeline, a movie that holds the distinction of being the movie that made me give up on movies for a few years. Here's what happened. I'd gone with my girlfriend at the time to see Haunted Mansion with Eddie Murphy, and it was so bad we walked out of it to go see another movie, any other movie. That movie happened to be Timeline, a movie that stars Paul Walker, Gerard Butler, and Michael Sheen. And it was even worse than Eddie Murphy's Haunted Mansion, if you can believe it. I wanted to walk out of that movie too, but there was nowhere to go. There was nowhere else to go, Mr. Stallone. And I know what you're thinking. What did you expect, Hartford Hellion? You went to see Haunted Mansion and Timeline. And to that I say, you can chug it, Mr. Stallone. You can go ahead and chug it. But one of the movies that restored my faith in movies was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, a movie where you made an appearance. And you know who was the casting director of that film? If you guessed Sarah Finn, you're a really good guesser. And there you have it. This week's Stallone connection is none other than casting director Sarah Finn. I hope to hear from you soon. Your pal, the Hartford Hellion.
Good on you, Sarah. I mean, like, honestly, though, when you think about this whole thing of like somebody that feels like they have to have done something is Graham Greene. How has Graham Greene not done a billion things with Stallone? That guy's got like 150 credits himself.
I did not see him in anything with Stallone because I wanted to use him for last week's Echo.
Yeah, he's one of those guys, and I wouldn't be I'm shocked that he hasn't been in. But he's also, again, like I said, he's one of those dudes. When that dude's face shows up on the screen, you're like, I like that guy. I've seen him in a billion things. That's one of those dudes, and he kills it, man. All right. Oh, also, great T-shirts. He's wearing great T-shirts the entire time.
Yeah, he is.
He does have good
they mock those up. Those are really, really great. I love that kind of stuff. All right, let's get down to it. Here at HMP, we got our own patented Robin rating system. Bruce, where does Echo lie on the Robin rating system for you?
You know, it was enjoyable enough. I haven't enjoyed much on Disney Plus. It's spotty. I'll just put it that way. I enjoyed Loki, so I guess this is in that shadow a little bit. I enjoyed that Andor show, so this is in that shadow a little bit. But I still give it a pretty solid Tim Drake. Being 5 episodes, I think worked in its favor. There's some stuff I would have liked to have seen done differently, but overall, I didn't not like it. You know what I mean? So I'm going to give it a Tim Drake.
Yeah. All right, Sean.
For me, it's a Damian Wayne. I know that I've been pooping in this TV show's mouth the whole episode, but like, I like it enough. It's the problem I have with the show is that once you start getting into, well, there's two. One, once you start getting into the superhero-ness of the character, it's not nearly as fun anymore. Like, just make her a badass. It's totally fine,
like
everybody.
The stakes get taken away at that point because you're like, oh, her magic's going to get her out of the problem that she's in instead of her wits and brains.
Yes. And the other thing is that the MCU needs to start stepping up its game. And the only way you're going to do that is by stop fracturing yourself. Meaning, okay, you have this great idea, what to do with Captain America. Okay, great. Now, all of the people that are in Captain America, Winter Soldier, they don't need their own thing.
Yeah.
It's totally fine to make them a side dish, not the entree. It's totally, totally fine. But we have to keep fracturing and fracturing and fracturing. And so all of your talent is getting watered more and more and more to the point where we are now, where, like, I get that there's certain people out there probably who are a fan of, like, you know what? I'm not even going to name a thing because I don't want to poop on anyone's mouth who worked on the thing. So basically, what I'm saying is, it's this show is just fine.
Put it on the box. This show's just fine. Sweet Shelton, Hartford Haley.
Hey, you said it.
Listen.
Think that was going to happen.
Yeah, listen. Everyone gets one. For me, I think I'm Tim Drake with this as well. I'm just kind of I was shocked at how much I enjoyed it. Again, I think that I agree with Sean is that there's points in it and it feels like they never quite go for the gusto. I like a lot of the cheats and shortcuts that we do that with the contact lens and the the sign language. I thought not only is that great for the character just being able to the shortcut for everything now. So now she can look at anybody, and know exactly what they're saying. And then we don't have the consistent loop of, they're just good at reading lips and stuff like that. Well, yeah. Yes, to a degree, many of them are. But if you have one that can, sign automatically just by looking at somebody, really dope idea. But also a really great character bit in as much as the Kingpin is showing who he is by that. It's like, I would rather force someone else to make this technology that does all this stuff for me instead of connecting with the person that I supposedly have, feelings and care for.
That is a good bit of character. Yes. Really,
really smart. And she even calls him out on it at one point. It's like, you didn't even bother learning this stuff for me. And in his head, he's learned it, so to speak. He's just like, but I solved the problem. What does it matter? It's like, what matters is you didn't seem to care. And that's also what I liked about everyone else in this is how, I don't know how much, American Sign Language everyone else had to learn in this thing. But I love that everybody does that. And everybody in her group who would be speaking to her in ASL, it's there. And that's a really, really great point to this and a super good way to, bring in the bit about Kingpin there. And that's why I give this show a little bit more credit because it's a little smarter than I think it probably appears on just the bare base purchase of it all.
Yeah.
Something I read is when she's talking to the other Choctaw people, they're not using ASL; they're using Native American Sign Language.
Well, okay, for lack of
really cool too.
Yeah, that lack of me knowing.
I couldn't tell by looking, but when I read that, I thought that was a really nice attention to detail.
Yeah, but it looks like they're actually doing the proper movements and stuff because we've seen. Did you guys see this is a couple of years, obviously many years ago at this point, but Obama was doing like a speech or whatever, and they had this guy in doing sign language, and he didn't have no idea how to do that sign language.
Sounds like a Key and Peele bit.
It kind of was it was practically that, but you look over for half a second, it looks like he knew what he was doing, but then you're like, No. What is that? What are you
That's
doing?
great.
He's just kind of like, he's going in and sweeping and swapping and doing all this stuff. And you're like, no, that ain't sign language. I don't know sign language, but I do know that ain't it. So I'm glad that they, but it gave a realistic tone to the entire show. And that's what kind of sucks is when we go into the wild magical powers and stuff, that it kind of takes all that and chops it away and takes it away from her, overcoming not only one, but two disabilities. And I love the fact that, even with her leg and everything, this girl can fight. She can move and stuff on camera. I buy her as somebody who could go through that room and kick some butt on people. And you need that with a character like this. So yeah, I want to see her in more things, but that's that long story short. That's a Tim Drake for me, but I liked it well enough, and I think if you were on the fence about it, just give it at least a little bit of a shot. And it's only 5 episodes, so at least it's not super long, and you want to kill yourself at the end. That is it, everybody. Another episode of HMP Down. We'll talk about what we're doing next week in a little bit. Bruce, what do you want to say to the fine people of the internet?
You can check me out. I was a guest on All American Spook Show talking about Braddock Missing in Action 3, which is one of the 3 best missing in action movies that Cannon Pictures made. So
it's true.
Go look for that and listen to it. It's fun.
I think I bought a copy of Missing in Action 3 on VHS, and I keep trying to get a VHS player that will not eat tapes. You just get
That's hard.
It's extremely hard, especially when you only get your VCRs from the Goodwill.
Yeah,
because they're usually broken.
Yeah.
If you want a decent one, you got to pay like $150 or for something that, and I'm like, for VCR, no, thank you. Sean, what else?
Well, I'm back in the States, so I have nothing. I just got back.
If you want to hear if you want to hear an interesting story about Sean's adventure, patreon.com/HMP.
Very true.
Quite an interesting ordeal over the last little bit here. See, that's how you tease them in the business, everybody.
Nice.
Next week, all of our people that support us over at patreon.com/HMP, speaking of, have been telling us left and right that they want us to cover this series on Netflix. So next week, we're going to take a look at the first 3 episodes of Blue Eye Samurai, available now on Netflix. So check that out. Join us back here next week, and we'll have a little bit more stuff to talk about. What do you say? Doesn't that sound like good? That sounds good to me.
Good.
That is it, everybody. Join us next week when we're talking Blue-Eyed Samurai. For Sweet Sean to go back from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portress. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.